Hey guys, this is Miss Christine. Welcome to Elementary Art. This is our first week of Elementary Art. I hope that this is a fun time for you guys. I'm really excited about doing some projects with you. Over the summer, I was able to go to the beach for a couple of days with my family. It was a little bit different than previous years, but we had a nice time. We stayed safe, and I took lots of pictures while I was there. And today what we're going to do is we're going to draw one of my favorite pictures from our beach trip this summer, and we're going to use our oil pastels to do so. Okay, I'm going to do a close-up of the picture for you. Okay, so it's kind of like a ocean scene with a wave and a little bit of a sunset and some sand and maybe a little bit of a pier or a dock hanging off the side there. Okay. Now these are our oil pastels that we're going to be using. You guys should all have these in your art kit that was supplied to you. Okay, so go ahead and open that up and we'll get started. Okay guys, so the first thing that I'm going to do, now these are my oil pastels. Mine are a little bit different than yours. They're an older set that I've been using for years, but the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out all of the colors that I want to use for my image. You can go ahead and pick out what you want. I recommend using some blues, maybe some dark blue, some light blue, then whatever color sunset you want. Mine is kind of pink and peach colored, so maybe one of those, and then also some tan colors for through here, through the sand, some dark tan and some light tan. We definitely need a dark blue for this part here. Maybe a dark gray and some white. Okay. Now these oil pastels are a little bit like crayons. They're a little waxy. And you can always break them in half if you need to share with a sibling. Or sometimes I really like just having a smaller size piece because it's easier to draw with. Sometimes you can do different techniques with a smaller piece of oil pastel. So don't feel like you have to keep these in perfect condition. I mean, don't waste them or anything like that. But, you know, if you want to break one in half, that's perfectly fine, okay? And if your oil pastel runs down, you would just rip the paper off just like you would with a regular crayon to expose more of the pastel, okay? Now I'm going to take a nice kind of medium blue color, and I'm going to make a straight line across here. Okay, and that's where my ocean meets the sky. Okay, it doesn't need to be perfectly straight, but do the best that you can. Okay. In fact, remember I was saying about the smaller pastels, like this one here is actually broken in half. So what you can do with that if you want is instead of using the tip like this, you can use the sides. And kind of go like that. Okay. Now we are going to start with the sky though. So after we have that marked, actually, you know what? Let me do one more thing. Let's go down here and just make a hint of a line of where the sand and the water are going to meet. Okay. But I want to start off with the sky. So pick out your pinkish colors, your lightest pink or peach or orange or red, whatever color that you want to use for your sunset. I'm going to use kind of this pinkish color, and I'm going to use the flat side right here, this flat side, and kind of mark the areas that I want to be the sunset. That doesn't look as pink on the camera as it is for real, but that is kind of like it's like a little peach colored kind of thing. Let me get something a little bit more pink, a little bit brighter. Maybe something more like that. And I want to have some up here, and up here, maybe a little bit there. Okay. Now after I've got my sunset colors in, and you don't have to do the whole thing. Don't make it perfect yet, okay? Because this is still in progress. We're not done. That's not how it's going to look when it's finished. But just get some color on the paper, okay? And then we're going to take our blue, just sort of a nice sky blue, and fill in some more of our white space of the sky. And then I also want to add a little bit of purple. So I'm going to get just kind of a medium purple and just put a couple spots here and there of the purple. So this is what I have so far, okay? I know it doesn't look like a whole lot yet, but we're going to work on that, okay? But if yours looks something like that, then that's perfect. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our white, or if you have a very light gray, that might work as well. But I'm going to use my white. I don't have a very big piece. Let me see if this will work. I think this will work just fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to kind of blend all of these colors together. Go over top of what we already colored. And I'm going to use it almost like a blending tool. I'm going to start with just the pinks. The pink and the peach, or whatever sunset color you chose. And I'm going to use this and go over top of it with a little bit of pressure so that none of the paper is showing. Okay, see how that kind of blends it together? I'm going to do all of my pinks first. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with my blues. Actually, I just realized that, you know what, I'm using the flat part of this pastel again. You can either use the tip, the very point, or you can use the side. And I kind of go back and forth depending on the size of the space that I'm working on. If I'm working on a small little space, I'll use the tip. But if I'm going to be using a larger area, like I am in the sky, then I'll use the flat side of it. That's basically our sky. We might go back in a little bit and do a little bit more touch up, but for right now, let's move on to our water. Okay, the first thing that we're gonna do with our water, see, this is our original picture again, okay? And so we've done our sky, we're gonna do our water next. And the first thing I wanna do is this little bit of a wave, just because I don't want it to get lost, and it's the lightest color. Generally with pastels, you wanna start with your lighter colors, generally speaking. Work with your lighter colors first and then move on to your darker colors. Okay, so let me put this phone back a little bit and we're going to work on our wave. So I'm going to take my white pastel and I'm going to make kind of almost like it's almost like a tiny little bit of a frowny face, or like a curved line right here. And then in the center, I'm gonna draw just some white coming down from the splash of the wave. I'm also gonna go in and do big circles. So my pastel just broke, and that's perfectly okay. I'm gonna go in and do some big circles with the white. Over in here, where our waves are crashing on the sand. Okay, now after that, I'm going to take a nice kind of a medium color blue, not too light and not too dark. And I'm going to use it on its side to just sort of fill this in with color. Again, I'm not going to go over my wave, okay? The part that I've done white is going to stay white. Okay, something like that is fine. Let's see. I actually think I'm going to use a lighter blue if I can find one. Here's a little bit of a lighter blue. I'm going to put a couple different shades of blue on this, okay? Some light, some dark. I'm actually going to put a little bit of green or teal in there as well. In fact, you know what? Maybe now that I'm putting in these other colors, I'll use the tip instead of the side of my pastel to make kind of some lines. Let me see. I'm not sure exactly what selection of colors you guys have, but if you have any teal or kind of medium greens or blue greens, anything like that, feel free to put that in there as well. I'm going to basically use all of my different colors of blue that I have. Just little bits. Like, you don't want to cover the whole thing. Just like a little stroke here, a little stroke there to fill up the water area, okay? There's that. I'm gonna get some green. I actually don't have too much of a teal color. I don't know if you guys do. If you do, go for it. I have this here. It's kind of like just an earth green, a dark green, kind of olivey colored. And I'm gonna put just little hints of that in here. Again, I'm gonna use the tip because I don't want a whole lot. It's kind of like a shadow color. Now I'm going to put a lot of it, or a little bit more of it over here by this dock. And little strokes here and there. Now where I'm going to use a lot of it, you see up here underneath this wave, there's a shadow. So what we're going to do is underneath of our white line and kind of around our white splashy foamy wave, we're going to add some of this kind of shadow color, like that. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to put a little bit of pink in there because maybe our sunset's reflecting on the water a little bit. Again, just some kind of random strokes, not the whole thing. Actually, I'm going to put some on my wave here. I'm going to do some little strokes like that. Just kind of show the water falling. Okay, and now I'm going to take my white again, just kind of like we did at the top. I'm going to use my white as a blending tool to kind of blend these colors together and try to make sure that we don't have any blank paper showing. Like right now you can see I have lots of little holes of paper that are showing, lots of white spaces. We want to try to cover up those white spaces. Right now we're going to avoid the wave. We'll do the area around it, but we're not going to actually touch the wave yet. Okay, so it should look something like that. Now I am going to go in on my wave part and just kind of blend in the whites and the pinks a little bit. That's what I have at the moment. Now, and again, this is our original. So what I want to do now, if you can see the difference between the two of them, what I want to do now is go in and add a little bit more darks into my water. So I'm going to take one of my darker blues, something a little darker than I had been using. Now, as you can see, my blue, again, these are older, they're not brand new like yours, and I've used up all of the pastel up here. So I'm going to find the edge of the paper and just kind of rip this off like that, okay? And if I wanted to, I could just break it right in half, and then I could have one to share, or I could have a little piece. I might do that yet, but right now I'm going to try using it like this. And most importantly, I want to go right underneath this white line that we did for the wave, like that, okay? It's a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go right underneath of our white curved line, and then also over here along the edge of our wave, okay? Now where our wave is crashing right here, I'm going to do a little bit of circles, maybe bring a little bit of that shadow out with some small lines. Okay. You can also, with pastels, kind of the same thing with crayons, but if you want something to be very, very dark, a very dark version of that color, you can use your pressure. You can press harder to make it a darker color or darker shade, and use less pressure to make it a lighter shade, okay? So right here where I want it to be the darkest, I'm gonna press, you know, pretty firm. But then over here, I'm gonna lighten up a little bit and just do some really simple strokes without a whole lot of pressure, okay? And then over here, we have these shadows, let's see, up here. So I'm gonna add some more of this dark with a little bit more pressure than I had before. And then maybe just a few strokes here and there throughout the rest of the water. Okay. For the sand, I'm going to start with this little tan color right here. And I'm going to use it on its side. You don't have to, but that's how I'm going to start. And I'm going to go right up to this blue line. In fact, I'm going to cover the blue line. There. And just sort of go like that. Now guys, it didn't occur to me to tell you until just now, but you guys feel free to pause this if I'm going a little too fast for you, or if you need to go back and re-listen to something that I said if you're not quite getting the hang of it. Okay, feel free to back it up or pause it. Okay, so after my tan color, I'm going to take this darker brown color, and you know how when you walk on the sand, how there's lots of footprints and dips in the sand from where people have walked. So I'm going to make a bunch of just little kind of squiggles to kind of make those little footprints or dips or shadows. And some of them maybe you want to press a little bit harder, and some of them not, just kind of like that. Okay, also down here, I want to make it a little bit darker, because that's like the edge of where the water comes up. So we're just going to make that a little bit like that. Now along our foam, we have some foam right up here where it's crashing onto the water. And that's right down here. I want to do some kind of light pressure. So don't press too hard. But just some sort of circles or ovals. And I don't want it to be a perfectly straight line, because waves are never perfectly straight when they come in, okay? So some might go closer to the water and some might be further away, right? And that's okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my white again, and I'm going to kind of use that to mix these colors up a little bit. I'm just sort of using medium pressure here. Okay, now, so that helped to blend it a little bit. I think I want to go back in with, let me see, maybe a little bit more of this original tan color that we used. And just fill in a little bit more of these white spaces. Just kind of like little blotches. Okay, they shouldn't be any kind of a perfect shape. Maybe I'll add a couple different shades of brown too for our little footprints. I like to use lots of different shades of the same color. I never use just one blue or one brown. I use a light brown, a dark brown, a medium brown, maybe a brown that's a little bit more yellow or a little bit more gray, and some that are a little bit more red. Actually, in my first one, I didn't use this color. So you can play around with different colors. You know, if you do this once and you're not quite happy with how it looks, you know, you can always do a second one and play around with different colors. Let's see, you know what? I'm going to try this color now. This is kind of like a dark yellow, kind of a mustard color. And I'm just going to do more of these squiggles. And I'm also going to try to blend in some of these colors as I'm doing more of these squiggles, okay? I'm going to be adventurous. I'm going to use a gray now. You know what? And maybe instead of just doing straight line squiggles, maybe I do little triangular squiggles. Maybe some kids were here playing in the sand, made some sand castles. If you want to draw a sand castle in there, you could always do that. You want to draw some seashells, that might be fun. Okay, I'm just going to stick to the sand, but if you guys have anything in there that you want to add, or maybe you want to draw your family or a dog or a beach towel, it's your drawing, okay? This is my drawing, but you can make yours however you want it. There, I'm liking that. I'm liking adding this gray in a little bit. And I also like having, like, when I say triangles, I don't mean like a full triangle. I mean, you could, but I'm just kind of like doing maybe like an upside down V. And as I'm doing it, I'm using some pressure so that I can blend in some of these other colors that we have. Okay, so that's the sand of the one that I just worked on. You can see I've got lots of different shades of color in there. Okay, and same with my water. There's a close-up of my wave. Okay, and now what I want to do, this is our original up here. I want to do this part right here where the foamy water comes in and hits the sand. So I'm going to take some light colors. I'm going to use a little bit of my pink that I used for my sunset. I'm going to use it real light and just kind of make, it's almost like half of a rainbow, kind of like we had up here for our wave. Kind of like half of a rainbow. Just sort of a curved line that shows the direction that the wave is coming in. Okay. I just did some pink. I'm also going to do a little bit of some blue. And with this one, I think I'm going to do a half circle, maybe going the other direction. With a bunch of little half circles. Kind of like backwards C's. Or maybe even some like little U shapes near the bottom where the water hits the sand. Do some little U shapes. I'll throw in a couple more backward C's. Again, not too many, okay? And I'm not using a lot of pressure, just a little bit of pressure. When I'm all done throwing in those colors, I'm gonna take my white again. I need to get a new white by next week, guys. This one here is, it's getting pretty tiny. But we're gonna take our white, and I want you to make great big circles over the whole thing. Some of these circles can be bigger, some of them can be smaller. But I want you to blend it in up here into our water even, okay? With these little circles. Maybe even down here a little bit where it meets the sand. Okay. As I'm looking at this, I want to add a little bit of white, just a few white strokes in my water. Not a lot, just a few. Okay. I also want to add just a little bit of definition towards the top of the waves. So I'm going to take a darker blue, but I'm going to do it real lightly. I'm not going to use a lot of pressure, just a little bit of pressure. And make like little rainbows to kind of show the top of the foamy waves coming in. Okay, again, some can be higher, some can be lower. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of blue right here where the water finally touches the sand. Okay. I'm going to blend that in a little bit. With a very light blue, just a little bit of pressure. There. And then one last touch for our sand. Right here along this edge where the water hits the sand. I want that to be a little bit darker because that's wet sand. Because these waves have been coming in and out all day long. So that's a little bit wetter and a little bit darker than some of our other sand. For this, you can use the tip of your pastel or you can use the flat side, whichever you prefer. Okay, I think that's about it for our sand. The very last thing that I'm going to do is that little pier, a little dock over there on the, I guess it's a pier, over on the left. Now, if you don't want to add a pier, you don't have to, but I just thought it would be something fun to do. If you wanted to, maybe you could add a palm tree or, I don't know, a boat. Maybe you could put a boat out there if you guys like boats. This was just the image. This was from Ocean City. I think you guys all live in Maryland, so this was from Ocean City, and where I was standing, there just happened to be this little pier out there that you could walk on. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a black pastel and just above, a little bit above where our sunset starts, I'm going to make a line that goes out like that. Okay, not too far in, just a couple of inches. And then I'm going to do kind of like a little second one on top of that because one is the walkway and one is the handrail. So you can do that, do those two little lines and maybe put like some vertical lines connecting the two. Okay. And then we're just going to have a bunch of posts that go down, straight down into the water. I'm left-handed, so I'm trying to make sure you guys can see on the video. I have no idea how many posts, guys. Just make it so that you feel like it looks right, okay? And now I'm not sure what these are, but there were two little kind of poles at the top. Maybe one of them had a flag on it. I'm not quite sure. I just know that there were these two little poles, okay? And because I know that underneath of that is really kind of dark and shadowy, I'm gonna add a little bit more of this darker color and kind of also blend in the edges, the bottoms of those beams that we just put in there. Okay, so kind of like that. Drag it out a little bit. And that's basically it. At this point, I'm gonna go back in and, oops, that's the wrong color. I'm gonna go back in and just add some brighter colors in the sunset. Because I like a nice, bright sunset. But that's basically the drawing. You know, at this point, you guys can go in and take a look at your own drawings and evaluate, you know, if you like it, or if there are sections that you still want to work on a little bit. And if there are, you just do the same techniques that we've already done. Maybe with some more colors. Maybe you really, really like orange and want to put more orange in there instead of these pinky colors. Go right ahead, okay? I'm always going to blend them a little bit. That's just me. Maybe you don't like them blended. It's your artwork, so I want you to be happy with it. You know what, and sunsets change. I don't know if you guys have ever stood out and just watched the sunset, but it changes from minute to minute. So every sunset's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to blend those in a little bit. Maybe I add just a smidge more, if that's too light. Maybe I add just a smidge more of this kind of pinky sunset color in the water. Just some little strokes, nothing major. Maybe even up here on these waves. Actually, when I went to Ocean City, I went at sunset, and it was really pretty because the water itself was blue, but wherever the white foam popped up, the sunset would hit it and would make it pink. And it was so pretty. There, I think something like that. Okay, so that's my finished drawing here. Hold on, where are we? There we go. Here's my finished drawing. Here was my original. And that's the one that we just did. So guys, I hope that you had fun with that. If you guys have any questions, you can always call or text me. Your parents should have my number. I'm always available to help you with your assignments. This whole distance learning video art thing is new to me. It's probably new to you as well. So also feel free to give me any comments if you had any trouble with this particular lesson, and we'll work through this together, okay? And we'll make this the best that we can do. I will see you guys next week. Take care. Okay, bye.